The moment hit like a thunderclap, a soundless crack that shattered everything. I thought I knew about love, trust, and the life I had built. I was home just like any other evening, carrying groceries in hope for a quiet dinner. The apartment smelled faintly of lavender, the one she said, reminded her of calm mornings. I smiled, thinking she would be happy. She wasn't. Alia, my wife of 5 years, sat at the kitchen table. Her hands were folded, her back straight, her expression unreadable. Her eyes, usually warm and soft, were cold. "I've thought about this for a long time," she said. Voice even, but heavy with decision. "And I think I need a better future." The words landed like knives. "Alia, what are you saying?" My voice was calm, but my chest was tightening, my stomach knotting into cold fear. I'm leaving," she said softly, not looking at me. "I've met someone else. Someone who can give me what I've always dreamed of. Ambition, wealth, status." I froze, gripping the grocery bag so tightly that the rice package crumpled. "You mean you're leaving me for him?" She finally looked at me, eyes void of the warmth that had once made my world spin. "Yes," she whispered. "I need a life that moves faster than what we have. You're kind, loyal, but predictable, safe, and I can't settle for safe anymore." The words weren't cruel. They were clinical, precise, final. I sat down heavily, letting the bags fall to the floor. The vegetables rolled away. Rice spilled. The sound seemed loud, almost absurd against the silence that followed her declaration. I couldn't find anger, not yet. Not in a way that mattered. Only disbelief. Only the sick realization that the life I had believed was shared. Committed real was gone. She stood, walking past me, brushing her hair over her shoulder like nothing had changed. "I've already told him," she said casually. "We're leaving tonight, I hope. One day you'll understand." I swallowed. My mind raced. Questions, pleas, regrets, everything came at once and nothing made sense. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg. I wanted to vanish. But I didn't. Instead, I let her go. I watched her leave, watched the door close behind her, watched my life shift irreversibly in silence. The apartment was empty. The silence was deafening. The air smelled faintly of lavender and betrayal. I sat on the floor, leaning against the cold wall. My reflection in the window stared back at me. A man defeated, broken yet strangely aware. I replayed every moment of our marriage in my mind, every choice I had made to support her, to make her happy, every sacrifice I had quietly endured. And I realized something terrifying. I had built my life to serve her dreams, but she had never intended to build a life with me. The first night alone, I didn't cry. I didn't curse. I simply stared at the ceiling, imagining a future I would now have to create without her. Days turned into weeks. The news spread quietly among mutual friends. Some pitied me. Others nodded knowingly, as if they had expected it all along. Alia had left for a life of luxury, a life I had no access to, a life I hadn't been enough to provide. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a spark ignited. It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was resolve. If she thought leaving me would make her future brighter, she hadn't realized something essential. I could build my own future, and it could be greater than anything she imagined. The man who had once been predictable and safe began to stir. The man who had been rejected was starting to plan. Plans that were quiet, meticulous, deliberate. Not to hurt her, not to chase her back, but to rise, to grow, to become the future she had lost forever. And karma had already begun to watch. Chapter 2. She chose another man. I chose silence. The first few mornings were the hardest. I woke up in a bed that once held shared warmth, now cold and empty. Coffee tasted bitter. The apartment felt larger, silent, suffocating. Friends called. They offered condolences, advice, sympathy. I thanked them politely, but the truth was, I didn't want to talk. I didn't want advice. I didn't want anyone to remind me of what I had lost. Instead, I walked the city streets alone. Rain fell gently on my coat, dripping from my collar, yet I barely noticed. I watched couples pass by, laughing, sharing umbrellas, holding hands. I kept walking, because looking back was too painful. Weeks passed. Work became my refuge. Numbers, clients, deals. They were predictable, tangible. Unlike love, unlike betrayal. And then I heard her name. Not from friends, not from mutual acquaintances, but in a quiet, cruel whisper of the world I had been forced to leave behind. Alia. Through social media, through casual updates, I saw it. The life she had chosen. Luxury, glamour, attention. A man beside her who had ambition, power, charisma, the exact qualities she had said I lacked. Something in me twisted. Not anger, not envy, not even pain, but understanding. She had chosen her version of a better future. And I had to choose mine. I didn't respond. I didn't message. I didn't plead. I watched. And I planned. Every evening I revisited old dreams I had shelved. Courses I had abandoned. Investments I had ignored. Skills I had neglected. The man she rejected, the one she deemed predictable, began quietly transforming. Late nights, early mornings, long hours. Not for her. Not to prove her wrong, but to prove to myself that I was capable of more. One night, after finishing a presentation for a potential client, I stood on the balcony of my apartment. The city lights shimmered, reflections dancing on puddles from earlier rain. Alia's face appeared in my mind, not to haunt, but as a reminder. She didn't need to see me. She didn't need to know. I would rise, and when I did, it would not be for revenge. It would be for freedom, for growth, for becoming a man she could no longer ignore. And yet in the quiet corners of my heart, a tiny ember glowed. If she thought leaving would make her future perfect, she had no idea what she had lost. Chapter 3. The Man I Started Becoming. Change didn't arrive dramatically. There was no sudden breakthrough, no applause, no moment where life magically made sense. It arrived quietly, in routine, in discipline, in silence. I stopped waking up late. I stopped wasting nights scrolling through memories that hurt. Instead, I filled my mornings with purpose and my nights with learning. While the world slept, I worked. I enrolled in courses I once told myself were too risky. I studied markets, people, strategy. I failed more than once. But for the first time in years, failure didn't scare me, because failure meant movement. At work, people began to notice, not because I spoke louder, but because I listened better, not because I demanded attention, but because my results spoke for me. A promotion came, then responsibility, then trust. I didn't celebrate. I simply kept going. Some nights, exhaustion hit hard. I'd sit alone in my apartment, lights off, city glowing beyond the window. That was when memories tried to return. Her laugh, her voice, the way she once said my name like it mattered. I let the memories pass. I didn't fight them. I didn't invite them either, because I understood something now. The man she left was not the man I was becoming. Months later, something unexpected happened. She texted, just one line. I heard you're doing well. I stared at the screen for a long time. No anger surged. No excitement followed. Only clarity. I typed nothing. I closed the app. That silence wasn't weakness. It was growth. For the first time, her opinion no longer defined my direction. I had begun building a future that didn't need validation from her or from anyone. And somewhere along the way, I realized the most dangerous thing a man can become is someone who no longer needs to be seen. Because when a man stops chasing approval, the world starts chasing him. And she was about to notice
just how far beyond her reach I had gone.
Chapter 4. She saw my name where she never expected. Success doesn't announce itself loudly. It arrives quietly. Then suddenly everyone notices. I didn't tell people what I was building. I didn't post motivational quotes. I didn't change my clothes or my tone. I just kept delivering. Projects that once passed me by started landing on my desk. Meetings I wasn't invited to suddenly required my presence. People who used to talk over me now waited for my input. One afternoon during a strategy meeting, the director paused mid-sentence. "We'll need him on this," he said, pointing toward me. He sees things differently. That was the first time someone had said that about me. Differently, not safe, not predictable, not boring. Later that week, my name appeared in a company-wide announcement. A new leadership initiative, a high-stakes project. My name listed alongside executives I once thought untouchable. I stared at the screen longer than necessary, not because I was shocked, but because I remembered a woman who once said I lacked ambition. Across the city, she saw it too. I know she did, because that night another message arrived. "Congratulations. I didn't know you had this in you." I read it slowly. Not once did she ask how I was. Not once did she apologize. Just surprise, as if my growth required her permission. I didn't respond. I closed my phone and returned to work. That silence spoke louder than any reply. Weeks passed. I moved into a better place. Not luxury, just space. Room to breathe. Room to think. One evening, I attended an industry event. Something I would have avoided before. I stood among people who talked about futures instead of fears. As introductions went around the room, I said my name. A pause followed. Recognition. "Oh, you're that guy," someone said. "We've heard about your work." I smiled politely. That was when it hit me. I had become visible in rooms where she would never stand again. And karma was patient. Because when someone leaves you thinking you'll always be small, nothing hurts more than watching you outgrow the world they chose. She rejected me for a better future. She just didn't know. I was building one without her. And soon, she would realize what she lost wasn't potential. It was permanence. Chapter 5. She reached out. When I stopped looking back. It always happens the same way. They don't miss you when you're struggling. They miss you when you're no longer available. I was leaving the office late one evening when my phone buzzed. A name I hadn't seen in months appeared on the screen. Her. I didn't open it right away. I stood there in the parking lot, engine off. City lights reflecting across the windshield, feeling something I didn't expect. Nothing. No anger. No longing. No curiosity. Just distance. When I finally read the message, it was short. "Can we talk? I've been thinking about us." Us! A word that used to mean everything. Now it felt like a memory someone else owned. I typed a response. Deleted it. Typed again. Deleted that too. Then I locked my phone and drove home. That night, I cooked dinner alone. Not rushed. Not distracted. Peace has a sound. And it's quiet. Days later, she tried again. "I saw your interview. I'm proud of you." I wondered when pride became a replacement for loyalty. Still, I didn't reply. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I had learned something important. Silence isn't punishment. It's clarity. When she finally called, I let it ring. Then it stopped. And I felt free. The man she left used to wait by the phone, hoping to be chosen again. That man was gone. I had become someone who didn't need permission to move forward. And somewhere deep inside, I knew this was the moment the balance shifted. She didn't lose me when she walked away. She lost me when I stopped chasing. Chapter 6. She realized too late what she traded away. Some realizations arrive quietly. Not with apologies. Not with dramatic tears. They arrive when the world stops answering your calls. I saw her again by accident. I was stepping out of a downtown cafe after a late meeting. Coffee still warm in my hand when I noticed her standing across the street. She looked thinner, tired. Her eyes scanned the crowd like she was searching for something she already knew was gone. When our eyes met, her face changed. Shock first, then relief, then regret. She crossed the street without thinking. "I didn't know you came here," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I didn't know I'd see you," I replied calmly. There was a pause. An awkward one. "You look different," she said. I nodded. "So do you." That hurt her more than silence ever could. She talked fast after that, too fast. About how things didn't work out. How the future she chose wasn't what she imagined. How life had been unfair to her. I listened. Not because I owed her anything, but because I no longer felt anything. "I made a mistake," she finally whispered. "I thought I was choosing more. I didn't know I was giving you up." For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. Not of losing me, but of facing the life she chose alone. "I didn't leave because I hated you," she added. "I left because I was afraid of staying ordinary." I looked at her then. Really looked. And I realized something important. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me she thought would always be waiting. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said gently. Her breath caught. "That's it?" she asked. "You don't want to try again?" I smiled, not bitter, not proud. Just honest. "No," I said. "I already did." Her eyes filled with tears as I walked away. And for the first time since she left, she understood. The future she wanted was walking away without looking back. Chapter 7. I became the future she lost forever. Some endings don't come with closure. They come with peace. Months passed after that day outside the cafe. Life didn't slow down, but for the first time, it didn't feel heavy either. My days were full. Not busy for the sake of distraction, but purposeful. I had built something solid. A career rooted in decisions I made for myself. A home that felt quiet in the right way. A future shaped by intention, not fear. I stopped wondering if she was watching, because I no longer needed her to see me. Then one evening an email arrived. From her. I didn't open it right away. The subject line read, "I understand now." When I finally read it, there were no accusations. No excuses. No guilt wrapped in poetry. Just truth. She wrote about the loneliness that followed her choices. About realizing that the better future she chased had no soul. About how she measured success in numbers and status, until she ran out of both. She admitted something she never had before. "I thought love was something I could upgrade later," she wrote. "I didn't realize it was the foundation I destroyed." I closed the laptop. Not angry, not sad, grateful, because I no longer needed explanations. That same week, I stood on a balcony overlooking the city, lights glowing like possibilities. A woman stood beside me, not someone from my past. Someone present, someone who saw me before I succeeded and chose me anyway. She didn't ask about my scars. She respected them. As the wind moved through the night, I realized the truth. I didn't become powerful to prove her wrong. I became powerful because I finally chose myself. Somewhere out there, she would remember the man she once left behind. But she would never touch the man I became, because the future she wanted was no longer available to her. And for the first time in my life, that felt like freedom.